Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is Elli. Elli is the founder of some subconscious and somatic therapy. She's also the co-author of the book WTF is Human Design, and she's the mama to Carrot the dog. So, Elli, welcome on. It's such an honor to have you on.
So good to see you. Can I also say that when we first met, remember you were like, hey, for a spiritual teacher, you're swearing a lot. Do you remember that? And I was like, I'm not a fucking spiritual teacher. So I feel like this is awesome full circle moment for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I love it. Yeah, the podcast is here for, I mean, the name is there, but I bring on people that are, have a lot of beautiful teachings to share. So, I consider you a spiritual teacher. So, even that little piece, right? Like the swearing piece is really funny because I was in a very different, I was in a like one of my chapters where I was working on that in myself, where I was like, all right, can I navigate without cursing, and what other words can I use to not you know what I mean? To
Totally.
not use that. And because I was in that time in my life, I was very aware of how powerful our words are.
Hmm.
And as I evolve and grow, I've realized that more and more, it's all frequency and it's all how you say it. So now I'm in a different space with it, but it's so funny that you brought that up. Yeah, that's
It just came through when I saw your face again. I was like, yeah, this, and I remember saying, I think the most spiritual thing we can do is to be ourselves,
yeah.
and that is, it was part of my language for a long time when I immigrated here because my English wasn't very good. So I had two words to communicate, the F-bomb and then dude. And I would be like using those two words to just, F dude and dude, so
Uh-huh.
so
That's
it's
so
with me for a long time.
That's awesome. That's definitely, an impactful way, and especially in California, dude is used pretty commonly, probably back then too. We're gonna go over a few really powerful topics today. One of them is human design, the subconscious mind, nervous system and nervous system regulation, and intuition. So I'm stoked. We're gonna have an awesome conversation. I already know it. So, uh, would you be open to sharing how everything started for you, your spiritual awakening, and those kind of things?
Mhm. Um, I think that purpose-wise, I've known most of my life that I'm here to help people. It started as a bit of a trauma response or codependent message in the sense that my mom raised me she always told me that I saved her as I was born and such a joyful kid. And so the message I got early on is that I'm here to save people. So
Mm,
there was an element of that that drove some pressure or some codependency. However, my soul definitely signed up to be of service in this lifetime and to create win-win situations of teamwork where it's not me leading, but where we come together and in the teamwork of the space we're in, the magic happens.
mhm,
So, my childhood, the way that it all started was pretty challenging growing up in Germany. Uh, by the time that I became an adult, I was super traumatized. My nervous system was super dysregulated. I immigrated at age 23 to America to follow my heart because I was in love with an American. And as we evolved our relationships, we got married. And then I remember taking a communication workshop in Charleston, South Carolina.
mhm,
And for the first time in my life, feeling heard, just feeling truly seen and heard. And it was just really clicked. I'm supposed to do that. And so I started studying with that person that was facilitating that workshop, and he was a teacher of the Mankind Project. I don't know if
mm,
you're familiar with
okay.
that. No. So the tools he was using at the time was the Course in Miracles. And so we did a lot of group meditations. And I remember I was probably 25. It feels a little cringy to share this, but I remember we were sitting in meditation at his house, like a bunch of people. And what I consider to be an awakening is like you remember who you are. You know, I remembered who I was, and I shouted out, "I'm God!" Like, you know, and I wasn't on drugs. As a matter of fact, I was, I had used a lot of cannabis and alcohol up until that point to just navigate trauma and nervous system dysregulation, and I was newly sober. And I was meditating a lot
Hmm.
and just remembering my nature, that there's no separation. So that was at the time the words I had, I'm God. Like,
Uh-huh.
we're
Uh-huh.
all laughing and just like, and then I went back to sleep a few more, it's like, it's so interesting to me. Like now I'm 48. This was 25 years ago or something, and so at the time I didn't know shit. So I had this awakening, but and then I went back to sleep. Then I awakened again, went back to sleep. So it wasn't one time and then I just stayed there. It was just a lot of like waking up to who I am and then falling back asleep, waking up, falling back asleep. And in hindsight, it was mostly because my subconscious programs were just not supporting my spiritual awakening,
Hmm.
So, and that's really what I'm super passionate about is when we have spiritual awakenings, usually through either pain, like intense pain, or a desire to grow. So some people just have a desire to grow and are super curious and go there.
Yeah.
And for most people, I think it's sparked by intense pain,
Yeah.
a precursor, and then we have this awakening. How do we stay in that space, And so I've now gathered a lot more tools since then and just understanding to help myself and others to stay in that space or to recognize it's not just this one-time mystical experience we have on a plant medicine or in deep meditation, but that we can live in that state of magic and connection more often than not, that it's our new normal, that it's my new normal being a spiritual being in the human experience and not the other way around. So I'd say that was the first awakening. The other ones were through intense pain. I'd say the next one then was about 12 years after that when my marriage, I was married for 12 and a half years, just from one minute to the next, just boom, fell apart. And that pain was so intense, that awoke me again
Hmm.
to the understanding all is one and there is no separation. And then I realized I needed some deeper tools to make that really stay.
Hmm.
Um, and now it's more like I have mini moments, every single day a little bit where I remember who I am and can be seeing your face or seeing my dog or just a whiff of the air. So now it seems more of a normal state of being to remember who I am and I don't have to work so hard anymore. Or the universe doesn't have to smack me 10 times. I'm
Right.
paying a little bit more attention now. I'm a little bit more present than I was at the time. But that was probably like the journey. And I don't think I meet sometimes people who had one awakening and who are able to stay there and who are just in this awakened state. That wasn't my story. So it was
Mhm.
more like uh, moments in meditation where I was seeking it, and then moments where the universe was like, okay, you need to pay attention. Boom, wake up, and
Well,
wake up.
I'm really curious. So for me, I was one of those people that it happened and then I stayed there, right? And so I'm really curious, what were those moments? Do you remember like what would happen that would bring you back into that sleep state where you felt like you were out of it? Like what were you, was it alcohol? Was it um like these deeper traumas that you were processing? What do you think would take you back into that lower frequency?
Yeah, I would say if I don't even consider it lower frequency, I just think that when that programs, subconscious programs, were so strong and
Hmm.
unresolved trauma. And I learned later then that we actually have three minds. We have the conscious mind that in spiritual work is often referred to as the ego. Then we have our subconscious programs, and then we have our superconscious mind. So the superconscious is when I meditate or there's plant medicine or sound healing or anything that gets me into a theta brainwave state, then I am able to zoom out and up and I can see my life and my emotions and everything from a bird's eye view perspective. That's called the superconscious in my world,
Hmm.
superconscious mind. So for a while, I did a lot of practices that got me to the connection to the superconscious mind. So it was easier to see what was going on. But whenever I wouldn't do those practices to connect to the superconscious, what was driving and what is driving the buzz is the subconscious, right? 95 to 99% of our life is driven by subconscious programs.
Yeah.
So, what to answer your question, I went back asleep anytime I wouldn't practice spiritual tools.
Mm,
So I was just kind of like the rebel that I am. I was like, I don't want to have to do spiritual tools every day
right.
to be in that state. So I was kind of curious about, can I create this without having to work so hard? For a while, it was like I needed half a day of spiritual tools to spend the other half the day helping people, and then I had nothing left for anything.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it just something there felt unintegrated, disembodied, whatever you might call it.
Yeah.
And um, I also was like, okay, so the monks and the people that are living a spiritual life, they also don't live in busy America. So
Yeah.
I was, what else do I need to do so this becomes a little easier? And
Yeah.
so when I found subconscious tools to help me change the underbelly of what I was operating on. So it wasn't necessarily drugs or alcohol that lowered me down. It would be like I would go a day or two without connecting to source intentionally with meditation or breath work or prayer or whatever. And then before you know it, I would find myself in the programs, in the trauma responses, in the hopelessness, despair of the programs that I grew up with, if that makes
That
sense.
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And you brought up the book Course of Miracles. Did you ever end up going through that whole book?
Several times, yeah.
Wow.
Um, that actually, so my dad and my dad's no longer in his body, and my dad is literally the dad I signed up for so I could experience intense pain and relational pain and emotional pain so I could learn what it feels like so I could help other people. I joke a lot of times with myself, like it's so funny to me that I help people feel their feelings because my dad was like, feelings are stupid, feelings are silly, especially yours. And then we'd get like, this is my dad and I, it was like oil and water. And there
Hmm.
was a lot of love, but like he was a German, there was a lot of physical violence and verbal and emotional violence. And I was so dysregulated. I was hardly in my body for the first 20 years of my life. And where was I going with this?
That he was
Programs.
your teacher that kind of showed you that this
Oh,
is
the
what you
Course in
want.
Miracles. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
Course in Miracles. Yeah. So by the
yeah.
time I literally ran away from Germany to come to my, like a part of it was running towards love, right? Or what I thought was love. And the other part of us was like, I wanted to get the fuck as far away from my German dad as I could.
Right.
And when I learned about America in the 12th grade and that people didn't like what was going on and wanted to found their own country, I'm like, that's me. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't like what's going on. I want to leave. So I got as far away from him as possible, but like the trauma lives, no matter where you go, there you are, right?
Right.
So I got married and I realized like this is not going anywhere. So the Course in Miracles opened is a course in forgiveness. It's
Yeah.
a forgiveness course, right? So the first lesson, nothing is what it seems. This isn't a table, this isn't a computer, this isn't a body, nothing is what it seems. I was like, just
Yeah.
realizing that everything is belief, everything is yeah, and even every belief is already a limitation. So the first round I did with the Course in Miracles allowed me to see my dad in a different way,
Uh,
to see myself in a different way. And so then I did it again. Now I look at the Course in Miracles, I open them, I'm like, how did I ever understood this? It's so difficult to read.
yeah.
And at the time we were working with a mentor, teacher, and he would like break it down, what that even means. And yeah, I don't know if I would want to do it again, but what I took away from it was the power of perception and the power of belief. And that a change in perception and a change in belief is a miracle. So when I change my consciousness, I create miracles. When you
Mm,
change your consciousness, we create miracles. So I changed my consciousness around my dad, and our relationship is the proudest accomplishment I have in my life. We made it all the way back together. And not only that, but when he started to die, I got to spend time with him every day, and we were in this really enlightened state together. He was an enlightened being. I got to share my gifts with him. He got to receive them and finally understood what I'm actually doing. And even then he said, I'm so proud of you and I didn't need it anymore type thing, you know. So it was like this really amazing, just multiple portals with my dad. And he's the reason I'm in this work. He's the reason I do what I do. At first, it was pain and trauma, and then it became a calling.
yeah.
And I recently, actually, speaking of nervous system, he was a pharmacist. And even though quite, he wasn't a very good father, he was a really good pharmacist and a really good healer. And he created this nervous system regulating tea. And
Oh,
I
wow.
recently started to make it and offer it, and that feels also really special, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a very the Course in Miracles was very powerful in laying the foundation for my understanding that everything is just belief.
Yeah.
And a belief is just a thought we keep thinking and believing. And just because we think something doesn't make it true, you know, and
Right.
it changed. So that changed my whole world because the German programming is very much like you got to have an opinion and about everything, and you got to fight for that opinion and you got to fight for what's right, you know, and be right.
Yeah.
And I just no longer operate that way, you know?
Yeah, that's a huge point right there. Like when I learned that I didn't need to be right, there was nothing really that I got, like it would feed my ego, but besides that, there was nothing good about being right. I could just and what is being right, right? It's like everybody thinks they're right about something, and in reality, that something could mean nothing, right? So it's a really that's a really powerful point about being right. Like that was letting go of being right was a huge liberating experience for me, for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, I don't know if I fully let go of it. I think having certainty in something is also really important. I just rather have certainty now in universal truth
Yeah,
rather than, you know, like there's to me some universal truth
for sure.
that feel really true. And I'd be super open for that also to be dismantled. You know, I ultimately believe everything is choice and everything is belief. So if you want to believe that nothing matters, believe that. If you want to believe everything matters, believe that. You know, I always go to like, well, how does it feel? How does it feel? And if it feels good, I go with it. You
Mm,
know, I do
mhm.
believe we're here to feel joy and to feel good. But that's also a belief that I hold, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's really an interesting topic for sure. Yeah, uh I mean, I would say that for me, I don't fully, if I'm really real about it, I don't think that like everything. I think that what you said, like certain like truths that feel like truths to me that have been like proven in my mind or in my experience, that that I feel is important, right?
Yeah.
And then but like what I meant by being right is like, okay, you have an opinion, I have an opinion, my opinion is better than your opinion. Like I've let go of all that, because I remember when I was working, one of the rules was you never talk about sports, you never talk about religion, and you never talk about politics, because
Hmm.
those are the three things that divide people and really get people fired up.
Hmm.
And and it's so interesting because everybody a lot of people have very strong opinions about those things, and being right about either football team or either religion or either side of same coin for a political party. Like at the end of the day, for me, those things, I don't care about being right because they don't really uh, in the bigger scheme of things, to me, they don't feel as important. It's those deeper truths that are underneath the religions, like the love and the core values of what those things were founded on is what's important to me, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And money, sex, power are the biggest topics that divide people. And then really, I, I'm a type of person, I enjoy people of all backgrounds and opinions. And
Same.
I notice some people have friends that are just like them, that either do the same thing or believe in the same thing. And I really enjoy just going by how I feel around a certain person. And what's important to me when connecting to people is their level of consciousness, you
Yeah.
know? So a certain level of consciousness is a prerequisite for me to want to engage with someone. And again, that's maybe also a little bit divisive. I'm recognizing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, there's certain things that the depth somebody can go with somebody else when they're at a certain level of consciousness or frequency, like I like to say sometimes, right? I don't I find that with people that have done deeper work, that have really looked at themselves and really dove deep into themselves, those are the people that I really like to be around because those people I know, if I need to have a difficult conversation, they're going to most likely be open to it. And if
yeah,
they're not, they may be open to being called forward on their stuff, you know? So,
totally.
I appreciate people like that and I really enjoy surrounding myself and being in the presence of people like that
Yeah.
because when somebody's not able to look at what's what may be a possible projection in the moment or how they're perceiving me in that moment where it's not anything like what I really am, and actually bringing that to the light and helping that person maybe see a shadow aspect of self or a blind spot, right? That to me is I like to receive that myself. So it's powerful to for me to be around people like that as well.
I love that you said that. That's exactly that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm so curious. So I know in Russia,
Mhm.
uh, the pharmaceutical, it's not like in America, right? Where they have a lot of herbs, they have shilajit, they have these natural remedies that are right next to all the pharmaceuticals. And it sounds from what I perceived, like the tea that your dad would make for the nervous system regulation is like that. It's natural, right? It's all different herbs and remedies.
Yeah, I didn't know that about Russian, but it makes sense. In America, when you go to a pharmacy, it's like a drugstore
Right.
where you buy food and supplements and body wash. So in Germany, and I imagine Russia then too, it's purely medicine. And there's pharmaceutical medicine, and then there's also natural medicine. And my dad is his human design is manifesting generator or was, so he was
Yeah.
definitely a genius in a lot of ways. And we grew up in a little village, and all the villages around us, people were super stressed out, village life and lots of farmers working super hard. So there's a lot of stress. And he knew 40 years ago that stress is the root cause of disease. Another term for stress is trauma. So he then made his own teas and his own essential oils. He actually
Mm.
had a lot of crystals. We forged crystals as a kid, but
Wow.
you would never see any woo-woo. He was always like dressed up. Even on his days off, he would be in a suit. So there was nothing you could tell that he has any you couldn't see that from the outside. And honestly, as a kid, I never recognized that part of him. It
Wow.
was later when I dissolved my trauma around him that I would be able to see all his magical gifts that he also had. And yeah, that tea, he would give it to all the people in the villages, and their blood pressure would lower, their depression would go away, they
Mm,
would sleep better. So it's a sleeping tea. And it's magical. I mean, I've given it to a lot of my guy friends and they sleep like a log. They've stopped smoking and drinking. And
wow.
so I'm just kind of like, this is magical. And it's like
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful gift to continue this legacy. And I always think my dad's right here with me, doing this. Yeah, so it feels really, really special.
Maybe we could share it in the description,
Sure. Yes.
remedy,
Yes.
the way to make that tea. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Well, I
But
have it. I sell it. You can get it. I have
oh,
it.
great.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
whole thing now. So I just kind of started it and like I on a side note, I help people realize their dreams and make stuff happen. And I've noticed in observing people making their lives happen that in the beginning of something like this, of birthing a business, that we tend to go all in super hard, the American way of hustling. And I'm actually, I've built my own business since I'm 23, always in my own ways. And I've never hustled. I just am not a hustler. So I'm doing this also super slow drip, super relaxed, no
Mm,
hustle, So yeah, it just feels good to be able to share in a no hustly kind of way.
cool. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Yeah, it sounds like he was an alchemist in his own way.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's
Little.
beautiful. So, uh, I think this is a good transition into human design.
Mhm.
Your dad, like you mentioned, was a manifesting generator, which is what I am.
Mhm.
For those listeners that haven't heard about human design before, can you just start with the bare bones for us?
Yeah, totally. First of all, everything is belief. So human design is a concept, it's something that came as a download to someone in the late 80s. And it's a company, I often refer to it as astrology on crack. It's an incredible self-awareness tool that can help you understand yourself and others in a whole new way, that can give you insights into your destiny, insights into your gifts, why you came here, what you came here for. And I was first introduced to it in probably 2011 and dismissed it completely because
Mm,
at the time I was still living in a program that everything had to be academic and scientific. And it was just a stretch too woo-woo for me, you
right.
know? And my background is super sciencey, even though I kind of squat in both worlds. So at the time I was like, yeah, whatever. Somebody told me I'm a manifestor and I didn't I was dismissing it. And then I was probably introduced back into it in 2014, 2015. And so there's five archetypes in human design, five energy types. And then within each energy type, there's a ton of differentiation. Some human design teachers refer to it as the science of differentiation.
Mm,
So basically, there's like what, 8 billion realities, and it's 8 billion super different snowflakes.
right.
And then there's so much in spiritual teaching and in the therapy world and coaching that's very homogeneous. Like somebody would be like, hey, this is my way of getting to a six-figure life. And hey, this is my way how I got fit and skinny. And hey, this is how you should live life.
Yeah.
And I've been coaching people since I'm 19.
Oh,
So
wow.
I noticed through my own just trial and errors that no one is the same. And I would coach one person in a way, and it would be super helpful for them, and they would be successful. And another person, they just needed something different. And I would always be super curious, like, well, how can I support people better? And how can I also understand myself?
Yeah.
And so when I came to human design, that was a massive awakening for me. Like speaking of awakenings, I was just kind of like, wow, not only did it help me to completely understand myself and my struggles and my gifts, but also I realized that how I can love and support people much, much better. And so I use it in my coaching praxis when I know someone is a manifesting generator, for example, that's one of the archetypes, and I can look at your chart. I know how to support you and how to basically help you see things based on your human design, not the next person's, you know?
Right.
That's my favorite thing about it. My favorite thing about it is just like how it makes relating much easier, how you can use it to become abundant, prosperous, to become healthy. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's all about alignment, you know?
Yeah.
And it's sort of a fast way to understand your alignment and to understand why things aren't working for you. If you're feeling stuck somewhere, and then also give you a roadmap to success, basically. And success in a way, not just financially, but liking and loving who and where you are and being excited about where you're going. That's to me success. You know, what does
Yeah.
it mean? So like the inner success and then also creating the outer success. And then I started to be so excited about human design that I told everybody. And then I got a lot of the same questions. And I'm someone that doesn't do well with getting a ton of questions and repeating herself because my human design is actually of such that I'm here to just start things and then move on and other people finish them. So getting a lot of questions actually made me get out of alignment. So I decided to co-write a book about it. You know,
Ah,
like, okay, so if I can't get all these questions, I need to like put it somewhere, you know? So
yeah.
then we wrote a book about it. And these days there's amazing apps. At the time, there wasn't a lot of just like easy to digest stuff. So there's amazing apps, amazing teachers that teach human design, and it's just freaking fascinating. And yeah, I love using it in my day to day. And I also understand that people who are not vibing with this, I have a lot of friends who are still very much in academia, um, that don't resonate with this kinds of stuff, that it's just also just a belief system. It's just a belief system, you know,
Mhm.
and I don't feel any pressure for anybody to know it, but I do think it's really good time right now to dive into human design, especially right now.
Yeah. I've had you help me see certain things in my life with human design, and uh, it's been really helpful in certain ways. And being a manifestor generator, I've noticed that I get pulled more to like starting, helping start things up and kind of getting them going. And so a lot of my work is around that, like kind of starting it up, getting it going, and then it just then either it can continue on without me, or somehow it'll just fall into the right place. So um yeah, it's really interesting. And I think that's the importance of a team, right? Like especially if you're in a business and if you look at different people's human design, you can create a really powerful team where it's like, okay, this person's really good at keeping it going. This person's really good at starting it up. This person's really good at like projecting it and advertising it, sharing. They need to be invited most of the time, and those kind of things. So I've found it a powerful tool with those kind of things. So yeah, and it can be used as a tool for communities, if you're starting a community somewhere, or if you're starting a business, if you already have a business, all these kind of things, even in a friends group, if you go to an event or a festival, there can be all these different experiences that can be even more powerful from it.
I love that you said that because to me, I know all my friends human design, all my clients human design, and it immediately awoke me to close any gaps that I might have felt between people. So to me, it brought me back to oneness.
Yeah.
Um, Because the things that used to really annoy me about a person, I'm like, why isn't this person reaching out? Why do I always have to reach out?
Uh-huh.
Why am I always the one initiating things? Well, then I learned I'm a manifestor. I'm meant to go first.
Ah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, that just changed my entire world. Because
Yeah.
for a long time, I was just sitting there trying to manifest like other people. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm not meant to wait. I'm
Yeah.
meant to go first. And that was like, it changed my entire life. And now I also know if I have some clients or friends whose human design is of such that they need to wait for the invitation, I always make sure I send invitations.
Yeah.
or with someone like you, I would give you something to respond to. Hey, do you want to do this or that?
Right.
You can feel into it. And in my own romantic relationship, he's also a manifesting generator. So I'm energetically leading, which is weird, right? Because we're programmed that the woman is following, but actually between us, I energetically lead. And
Uh-huh.
it's like just understanding all of that. And also, what I really loved about it is lifestyle wise. So
Mm,
one thing is relationally and team wise, and in a company, really putting the right people in the right place. The other one is lifestyle wise. So, what to eat, how to
yeah.
exercise, like whether or not you need a morning ritual or not. Like, there's so many things that you can see in your chart where all these books and all these teachings on like everybody should do this and everybody should do that. It just completely, and it's like it dismantles that, and it's so much permission to do what your intuition is already guiding you to.
Yeah.
And what I also love is it teaches you how your intuition speaks to you. So everybody's a little different in the way that their intuition communicates, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, why are we doing all of this? Or at least for me, the healing work or the subconscious somatic work that I offer is so that a person becomes their own guru and really sovereign and feels super resourced to move forward in their own connection to source and really trust their intuition and feels really empowered to handle their own lives. And
Yeah.
that's to me like the ultimate goal of a healing or growth path is so that the person is ultimately super dialed to their intuition, their inner knowing, knows what an F yes and F no feels like in their body, so they can make decisions they're proud of and live their best life. And
Yeah.
so human design really helps you to understand how your intuition feels like. And for example, you have this amazing gut instinct as a Manny Gen.
Hmm.
You have this inner knowing of the yes and the no in your gut. My
Right.
intuition talks to me very differently than yours. And then I meet people that need to talk it out, or, they just have very different ways of getting to their connection to source. So I thought that was really, really empowering and helpful to also learn about.
Yeah. So can you speak a little bit into that? Like what are the different types of intuition? You mentioned a few, but what are the other types?
Well, so for example, your intuition is this like you're almost someone that needs to make sounds. Like if I say, "Hey Peter, do you want to go get a smoothie?" And if you're like, then I know that's a yes for you. Or if I'm like, "Hey, do you want to go do a bunch of drugs in the back alley?" Or like it's
Yeah.
like so you're like someone that has a guttural type thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't have that. So for me, my nervous system is my intuition. So when I'm dysregulated, which I was the first 20 years of my life,
Uh-huh.
I barely made choices based on my intuition. It was mostly
Mm.
reactionary. It was
Yeah.
mostly to avoid pain.
Yeah.
And so my intuition speaks to me like a visceral, uh, often like a sharp no. Everything is a yes until my nervous system is like, nope. And so it's hard to describe. It's often a tingling sometimes, and it's just the inner knowing more so than a guttural feeling.
Okay.
Then there's 50% of the population that have an emotional way of making decisions or an emotional intuition where they need to first really feel all their feelings. And during the time that they have a big emotional wave, they don't really know what's right for them.
Uh-huh.
They go a lot back and forth and they need to sleep on things. And then once the emotional wave passed and they feel neutral emotionally, then they can tap into their gut feeling.
Okay.
So, like, you know how when you go on Instagram and you see, like, hey, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no, or you feel it in your gut and you know that gut feeling, that's actually only true for about 30% of the population.
Okay.
The rest of people have a lot more nuanced ways that their intuition speaks to them. Now, we're all intuitive. It's just a different ways of how it is. We all have a connection to source. It's just like studying how source communicates to you. And for me, I learned what's really important for me is to have a lot of solo time and really my nervous system. So when I'm tweaked out, and my nervous system is giving me a lot of feedback. If it's not from lifestyle, then it's usually a no. So if
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship and I get a lot of physical feedback from my nervous system and I'm checking in, hey, am I not regulating my nervous system? And if I am semi-regulated and I just feel tweaked out, that's a no.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because, the challenge, I guess, for us all is to move out of logic and out of ego into just the inner knowing.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise of human design. No longer make your decision from your ego or that most deeply conditioned place, the mind, but the being. And that's like what human design teaches. Make your decision from your being, not from the conditioned part, the mind. So
Yeah.
he
It
talks
makes me, yeah, it makes
about,
me think about like centering yourself, right? Like working, like for different people, there's different tools that they can use to get there.
yeah,
I've found for me going to sweat really gets me there, like a
yeah,
steam room or a sauna,
yes,
or like going to the gym and moving some heavy weight,
yes,
or just sitting in silence and letting my body just move through whatever energy, grounding it down into the earth. Other ways is like using the medicine called hape, which is like a tobacco snuff from the Amazon. That gets me there really quickly. No, that's part of my everyday practice.
love it.
Uh, other ways are like getting in water, like a bathtub or into the ocean or a pool or a jacuzzi, something like that. There's a lot of tools out there to do it. Like forest bathing, they call it now, which is just getting into nature, being in the trees, right?
Yeah.
Just being somewhere without all the EMF and all the electronics. All those things really help, I think, get to that centered place. And then from that place, it sounds like regardless of what the way you get intuition, it's much easier to receive it, right?
Yeah. And I always have the belief that connecting to source doesn't have to be complicated, you know? What I find interesting is, for example, you're describing exactly what's right for Manny Jen. Movement and sweating is like the number one way that you clear your energy and get connection back. Whereas when I do that, um, it often exhausts my system too much.
Mm,
So I
okay.
have to learn to rest and then receive guidance. So
Okay.
that was like the big thing for me with human design. I came to human design at a time where I was overdoing everything, kind of living like a manifesting generator, because
Uh-huh.
my parents are many gens. So I was brought up in the belief system that you always got to be doing something and that's where your worth and value comes from. And
Yeah.
I never learned to rest. And I would always push through my energetic boundaries. I would push through my exhaustion believing that I needed to do something. So for me, the way to receive guidance is actually to do less. If I spent a whole day in bed and watch movies, the next day I'm like dialed, you know?
Nice.
So, but
Yeah.
if you were to spend a whole day watching movies, you'd probably be depressed, like
Yeah. Yeah.
not your medicine.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought is so cool, like it doesn't have to be complicated and it can be such a relief to learn those little tricks, and
Yeah.
just yeah, and permission for me to lay in bed all day and do nothing. And
Yeah.
that's the way I reconnect to source.
Yeah. That's really a good point to emphasize, because and I believe most people naturally start to develop certain things that work for them, right? That they're like, oh, this was great, let's do that more, or okay, this actually depleted me too much, so let's not go too deep into that.
Totally.
So yeah, that's great. So for those people that are interested in human design, there's lots of apps where they can get your book that you co-wrote with. WTF is Human Design. We can drop the link for that below in the description, as well as, there's all kinds of information out there about it. So it's something that is worth looking into for this time on earth, right?
It is.
Especially.
It's kind of like the Course in Miracles. It'll help you to realize that some of the stuff you brought up with is actually conditioning. It's not true for you. And so it's really like a journey of unlearning.
Yeah.
And everything I'm interested in is mostly to unlearn things we've been programmed with. And I don't believe like there's some evil entity with malicious intent that programs us. I just think that at some point, beliefs get passed down epigenetically, so it's not like disease gets passed down, it's beliefs and trauma that gets passed down, and attitudes and perceptions and levels of consciousness. So these are just things that have been passed down without ever been questioned, and in Germany, it's an old country, so lots of things got passed down without ever been questioned. And so then someone like me growing up and being like, nope, nope, that doesn't, nope, I don't like to be told what to do. Nope, I don't want to do this, like,
Yeah.
so I really appreciate the process of unlearning, you know?
Same. Yeah, for sure. I think I was telling you a little bit before the podcast how with my father, I got to see him recently, and I really got to take a really sharp look at some of these programs that he had passed down to me without me realizing it. And those are the aspects that are the most triggering around him because those are a lot of things that I've worked a lot on myself to try to remove or heal or reprogram, right? And so now I believe that the awareness of these programs is like 90% of it, right? Because when we're aware of it, we can catch it and shift it in the moment because that's when it really starts to change, is when we as individuals do it in the moment, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, I see that happening. Okay, I'm choosing a different way this time, you know?
I love the way you're talking about it too, because I meet a lot of people that have awareness and meet themselves in that awareness. And it used to be me also with so much judgment that the awareness couldn't go anywhere. It just would become another thing that we would beat ourselves up about,
Uh,
So awareness has to be met with acceptance right away. Like whatever we become aware of, like I might become aware of, oh shit, I've become like my mother or like my father, and this program is repeating itself in my relationship. Acceptance, love, mercy, compassion right away. Because I think that if you don't understand that these programs are subconscious, that it's not you or your personality or your soul, if we become aware of something and we identify with it, and we think this is me, like this is my personality and I'm the asshole, when then we'll just go into a big shame hole. And I think that's where a lot of people are, that are awakening to themselves or their patterns in a huge shame hole. If you don't understand scientifically the power of the subconscious mind and programming, you might end up just judging yourself up and down. So I hope if you're listening, and if that might be your pattern, is just judgment is just one of the most destructive patterns that we've been conditioned to live in.
yeah, and to add on top of that, shame is the lowest frequency you can experience. It's below fear.
Yes.
So fear and shame, those two go hand in hand. And uh, the way I've found out of it is to look at it with curiosity and with that acceptance, like you were saying. And I'll be honest, when I first saw it, it was really tough. Like it was really hard, like a heavy hit on me. And I was like, whoa, like I can't believe that this is a way that I've navigated at some point in my life and even aspects of it now, right? And so there was this moment of like feeling all the emotions around that, right? And I'm grateful that I have a partner who's like, no, this is actually a huge gift, right? Like this is a huge gift where now you can shift it. Now you get to shift it because before, without the awareness, you couldn't shift it. Now you got this gift. What are you going to do with it, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it brings up a memory from, when I was younger, I would sometimes meet people and they'd be like, this is just how I am. Just accept me or not, right? And in my mind, I was always like, it never resonated. It didn't make sense. I was like, what do you mean this is how you are? Like, you can't be an asshole to people and just say that, right? Like, you can't just treat someone like crap and be like, okay, this is how I am, take it or leave it, right? And those are the types of people that I find in that in that belief aren't are continuing these cycles with people, right? Like they'll be like take it or leave it, and then they'll leave it. Somebody will leave it, and then somebody else will come, take it or leave it, and it's just this continuous cycle where they're not willing to look at themselves, not willing to try to shift that because a lot of people don't even realize that we're there. That's a possibility, right? It's a possibility to shift our beliefs and to shift how we show up. And I think you and I are great examples of that because we came from these really rough types of cultures, right? Like where, if I go to a Russian store, a lot of people are still very rough around the edges. They're still very snappy. They're very like, all right, what do you want? And like just say it, and it's like, all right, well we can talk about it. We can move through this together. We don't have to get reactive, right? And it's kind of like these short fuses that some people have, right? And so, yeah, for anybody listening that feels like they can't or believe that this is just how I am, there's always the invitation to take a deeper look at it, work with people like Ellie and myself or others that you resonate with that are there to kind of guide you and show you these aspects and give you the tools to work through those kind of things and come out the other side the version of yourself that you want to be. And the beauty of it is doesn't matter how old you are.
Yep.
You can be 80 years old and I've seen shifts in people. You can be 20 years old, doesn't matter.
I love that, and I think that you make such a great point in like the countries or the places where there's still so much unresolved trauma. The trauma lives in our subconscious, and our subconscious governs our nervous system. And having a short fuse, being reactive, these are all like states of the nervous system. And then if you're yeah, some people are just so dysregulated, they are not able to pause and ask themselves, hey, wait a minute, what's really going on here? Because they're just in survival,
Right.
and so many people are doing their best to just survive. The reason I wanted to change is because I realized how much pain I was causing too.
Right.
This is what's so interesting as a person that experiences trauma, or if you see what's going on in the world and the reactivity leading to so much pain, the person that's reactive is also was at some point a victim to something,
Yeah.
and then they become the villain.
Right.
It's just kind of like a perpetuating cycle, and not every soul came here to wake up. So it's really interesting. And I don't know anything. All I know is I'm responsible for my state of my nervous system, my level of consciousness. That's the best thing I can do. And before I took responsibility for myself, I'm pretty sure I was pretty harmful too. Hurt people. And so, um, that's a big part of my inspiration also to continue to continue to be curious so that I don't perpetuate the harm.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a huge piece too, right? Where it's like we there's also an empowerment piece in that, right? Where it's like I'm responsible for everything that is happening to me. And I have the ability to shift that
Yes.
with the tools and with the awareness, right? And it's like an onion for me. It's like I'll peel off a layer and then I'm like, okay, there's this other layer here I didn't even know was there or I haven't looked at in a long time or ever, right? And then that layer gets peeled off and it's like, oh, okay, here's a little bit more, you know? And so, I've met people in my journey that are like, I've done so much work on myself, and it's all relative, right? Like somebody might consider changing their diet as a lot of work, right? Like they went from fast food and went really healthy and they, went into the gym and all this stuff and they consider that doing a lot of work, right? And then it's like, okay, but then there's another layer to that, right? Like, what about your emotions? What about your like myofascia, where you hold the trauma, where you hold the energy, right? And then it's like it keeps going. And I think that in this reality, we're in an earth school, and I've mentioned this before, where it's like we get these different lessons, right? And then these lessons either are learned and integrated, or they continue on. And they can continue on for the rest of this lifetime. They can continue on later on, wherever you end up going after that. And so I'm in this mindset where it's like I'd rather face it and shift it now than continue to have to go through it.
I wanna, if you're open to that, like the word working on yourself, like, right? So I don't love that. I'm like, I don't think anybody's broken and need fixing. Like when people come to me, I'm always like, okay, so I get that you have trauma and that you think you need healing because you think you're broken and you need fixing. But let's just make one thing clear. No one is broken. No one needs fixing. We're here in this space because our soul signed up for this human experience. And what if we just look at it like unlocking and unblocking anything that's in your way for you to fully, freely express your gifts and why you came here, right? So when
Yeah.
people talk a lot, like I've done a lot of work on myself, like, and I use that phrase too. I just want to come up with something different because it's more like understanding that no matter how you have on the outside, no matter what you have, if you have the relationship, the house, the money, that doesn't equal happiness.
Yeah.
Right? I
Right.
mean, I met so many people early on in my coaching career that literally had everything, on paper, but they
Yeah.
were miserable,
Yeah.
miserable, depressed, anxious, miserable. And as a young bunny, I was like, why is that? Like, so, and then I really started to understand it's like your beliefs and your perceptions and your connection to source is what your inner fulfillment comes from, not the outside. And then I met a lot of people who didn't have the outside, and the money and the home and the relationship, and that matters too,
Yeah.
And so then being like, well, it's kind of a both and thing, And so some people say none of the outside matters, it's just about inside. And some people are like, none of the inside matters, just the outside. It's both and. And so, like, what is the work really about? What does this work really mean? What are we working on, right? So
Yeah.
it's like remembering who you are, closing the gap to source, living connected. I'm not sure, but maybe you and I can come up with a different term other than
I
working on yourself.
Yeah, I think I got it. I like the term fine tuning
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
because if you get a guitar, you're gonna have to tune it.
Yeah.
It can sound nice, but it's not gonna sound how it
Yeah.
wants to sound until you tune it. And
Right on.
so fine tuning, right? Or like, I think about a car, right? My buddy was just talking to me about how his van needed all these fixings, right? And it was an older van, but he needed to repair this and repair that, and he needed to, clear out the oil, clear out the old gunk in it, right? It's the same thing. It's like you're clearing out the subconscious gunk and the mental garbage basically
Yeah.
that's in the way of this beautiful, clean, like environment, right?
Yeah.
Inside ourselves.
Yeah, I
And
like that.
yeah, so yeah, fine tuning sounds better to me,
Yeah.
because it's just it's all about, and I also like the what you said about removing the obstacles, removing the blocks, right? Because that's also a big part of it, right? So like if there was tape on the guitar, you'd have to take the tape off before you could play it, right? And so just looking at it like that would be more conducive, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like the Germans value something different than Americans culturally, you know. So Germans, for example, value a lot of education. So if
Uh-huh.
you're highly educated in Germany, that's valued. Whereas in America, I think if you look good and have a lot of money, that's, you know, that's valued as like you're better than or whatever, you know? So it's like really
Yeah.
interesting to me, like what different cultures value as successful or better than or whatever. And I work with people in different countries all over the world, and it's always super fascinating that at the bot in our core, we all want the same things, you know, no matter where you're from. And I'm like, this blows my mind that we all want the same things. We just want to connect and love and yeah, experience love and connection and abundance and presence, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
be seen and heard, right? In our authenticity as well, right? Like being able to be real and people like accepting us for who we are.
yeah, experiencing love,
Yeah.
authentic love. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people right now, it's about the journey of taking off the masks that they had to put on to be cool or to look a certain way or to give that perception of wealth or of success, right? And it's
Yeah.
like you see, I've seen it all the time, right? Where people get the chains and they get the jewelry and then they don't have anything in their bank account or they don't have any emotional support, you know? So it's but at the core of it, what you were saying, right? Where it's like you can get all the material stuff. You can play in Maya, which is the illusion, but at the core of it, that connection to self, being authentic, and then also connecting to something higher, where it's like there's two paths. There's the path of self, and there's the
Mhm.
path of service.
Mhm.
And the path of service is way easier than the path of self,
Mhm.
right? Because if you go with the path of self, you get all the stuff, you get the power, you get the money, you get the whatever it is you're feeling like you need, right? To feel successful or happy, and then you realize that's not it. And then it eventually leads to the same place. But if you're in a path of service, then you're helping people along the way and you're able to align with the things that are meant for you much easier.
I mean, I kind of like both, you know. I think that I don't want to create any limitations for myself either and what I'm able to create in the physical world, you know. So it's becoming like a fun game, and I think having things allows me to also help more, you know.
Yeah,
So if I'm relaxed in my nervous system because I'm abundant financially or in material things, I can help more. That
yeah,
feels, you know. So I think that that spiritual and material world are also coming to a whole new understanding together. You know, it's no longer either or, but both and. And I like that. I like that a lot of things are coming both and these days, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, not to say that one, I guess I would add on top of it that, you know, you can be of service, and when you are of service, all those things come as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So what I was trying to say is that when you're very selfish and in that one me, right? That can only take you so far, right? And then it still leads you to that deep desire for something bigger, something
Totally.
more. You know,
Yes.
that's what I was trying to say with that. But I mean, absolutely, it's there's so much to enjoy in this world when you have that foundation of having all your bills paid and having all the, you know, out of survival mode, then from there you can really show up for others and
Yeah.
in a big way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you know, it just it's different for every person, and that's the beauty of it, right? I like to think about how at the end of the day, at the end of this dream that we're in, right? Uh, we can wake up and be like, okay, here's what I learned, here's what I experienced, here's the fun jet skis I went on, right? And then it's like, okay, and then here's the deeper, aspects of self of my soul that I've been able to address and I think there's for me thinking about it right now, it's like what can be more powerful than breaking a pattern of a family lineage or of a culture that has been happening for hundreds or thousands of years and be like, hey, that's not me. And I've had it happen. I mean, I grew up here, right? Like I grew up in America. I came here when I was 4. So I'm not when I go back to Russia or when I go to a lot of places where there's Russian speakers, then I don't resonate with that way of being, and so it's powerful to see that I've already kind of taken a lot of steps away from that type of reactivity and those kind of ways. So it's nice little reminders, little nudges from the universe, like, okay, you're doing good. So
It's always fun to meet other people who are chain breakers, who
yeah.
want to do things differently and who are curious about how to get there. And my soul definitely also, just like yours, signed up for continuous growth and evolution and like, hey, who am I today this morning? Like, nice to meet you again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I hear you.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's really powerful. Yeah. So I think we can see if we have time for some nervous system regulation. I know that you're kind of one of those people in my life that are very, very tuned into that, right? Do you want to show people what you have on your lap?
Oh yeah. So, this is my emotional support weighted bunny. Last year I was going through a breakup and it hit me harder than I cared to admit at the time. I was like, wow, there's so much heart pain. There was so much still there that was really surprising. And a friend of mine gifted me the bunny. She's a heavy, she's an emotional support bunny.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big believer in just supporting the nervous system. And to me, my self-care used to be spiritually centered, and now it's mostly nervous system centered, and that actually gets me to my spiritual connection. So and let me back off a little bit. In 2020, when we had like our time to ourselves, I
Right.
spent 7 weeks by myself and without physical contact with another person. And that was a huge awakening time for me. And I got the hit that I needed to create subconscious and somatic integrative therapy. And there's 4 pillars that originally started to come down. The first pillar is subconscious work. When you work on your subconscious programs, you close trauma loops, you shift your beliefs, then your nervous system can unwind. Then you can use feel better tools every day for your nervous system. So the subconscious work to me is get better tools. Like it's a real like deep, you're gonna get better, you're really gonna elevate your emotional and vibrational set point permanently. With the nervous system care every day, you can create feel better moments. Like make yourself feel better every day a little bit. Then, when you have a regulated nervous system and your programs are supportive of what you're trying to do, it's much easier to feel your feelings on a regular basis. So, emotional intelligence is the next pillar, the third pillar. Really feeling your feelings without analyzing or judging them, just being in your body and feel and love yourself in it. And then the fourth pillar is your intuition, that coming online, really learning what's a yes and a no feels like in your body. Then the fifth pillar became human design and gene keys, just really understanding your energetics. The
Yes.
sixth pillar is community, being in healthy community and relationships. And the seventh optional pillar to me is plant medicine for people that are super stuck and just really need to beeline to source. I think plant medicine is an amazing way currently, my opinion on everything that's going on with plant medicine, I think we're in a very experimental phase. And I'm sort of just, I'm more focused on the integration piece and helping people integrate. I don't do much plant medicine. I have in the past, and I haven't in a long time. And I'm just kind of like curiously observing what's going on and helping people with integration piece. But these to me are the seven most important pillars
Yeah.
that help us really leverage this divinely intelligent system that we have. So, for the nervous system, it's really understanding first and foremost what it is, that it's this automatic spidey sense that we have that reacts to everything, and understanding what our nervous system responses feel like. So we have fight or flight, and then freeze as the first three F's. Fight would be, being super reactive, wanting to just react with confrontation. Flight being like wanting to run away. Freeze being like, okay, shut down, I can't do anything. More extreme words for that are anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
So if you're in a constant state of fight or flight, you might be anxious a lot. If you're in a constant state of overwhelm and freeze, you are depressed. And so these are in the medical world diagnosed as diseases. To me, they're nervous system states.
Yeah.
When we understand them as such, we're also empowered to do something about it with feel better and get better tools. So I'm an advocate of moving away from these labels because when a person says I'm an anxious person, I am, whatever follows I am is a declaration about your being. But
Yeah.
I'm an anxious person. It sounds to me like a belief that the anxiety comes over you. There's nothing you can do. It's like these outside forces. But what's really going on is your nervous system is responding super appropriately to what's going on inside of you and around you.
Right.
Your nervous system, it's doing its job. And so then with curiosity, what is going on? Are you in judgment? Are you in a trauma loop? Are you hating yourself? Are you perceiving your past from the position of a victim? What's going on that's causing your nervous system to be in such a state? And or what is around you? Are you in a toxic job or a relationship that no longer works? Are you saying yes to things that are not right for you, And so then your nervous system is responding. So to me, it's A, understanding those states. There's actually three more states of the nervous system that a lot of people don't know. The next one would be flooding. So constantly crying, being just so emotional that you can't stop. That's also your nervous system dysregulated. Then we have fawning, just going along with everything. You know how a lot of people are like, I'm super easygoing. Well, are you, or are you just in a permanent state of fawning? You know,
Yeah.
like fawning, just going along with whatever. Lots of women are permanently fawning. And when they start to heal, they're realizing, oh, I don't actually like this, and I actually don't want this.
Right.
So fawning and then fatigue,
Okay.
fatigue, constantly being fatigued. That's also just your nervous system speaking to you. So I think it's helpful to define these six F's, these six trauma responses.
Yeah.
The word trauma response originally referred to how is your body, your nervous system responding to stress.
Yeah.
Stress is another word for trauma. So there's these six trauma responses. Now, when we become aware that our nervous system is in any one of these responses, then we can take responsibility for caring for our nervous system.
Yeah.
Well, the very first thing when you think about it is to rest, deeply rest the mind, body, and spirit. And so I think what you and I bonded over in the past has been my all the little ways that I support my nervous system, and one of which is emotional support jackets, like
Yeah.
fuzzy, warm jackets. I think in the beginning of our podcast, I mentioned my nervous system is my intuition. So I'm the type of person that in human design, I have a splenic intuition, which means literally my instinct is very nervous system instinct, very primal first instinct. So if I feel too raw, if I'm not like supported physically with something heavy or material that's supported, I may not notice my intuition, my nervous system might get easily dysregulated. So I like to wear clothes that are super emotionally supportive.
Yeah.
Then this thing here, I'm feeling my nervous system is fried from this week. As the moment of our recording, it's September 12th. Yesterday, our country witnessed an I can't even say it. Somebody got killed, you
Yeah.
know? And so my
Assassination.
nervous system is like, whoa, there's a lot going on, and I feel that. So I felt like sitting here with something heavy on me gives my nervous system the signal I'm safe. I can relax my mind and body. I can find my breath, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I like to also teach people to directly work with their vagus nerve and understand their amazing physiology. My first college degree was a physical therapist, so I taught people a lot how to just use their physical body to make themselves feel better. So here's two super fun tips that everybody can do. So let's say your trauma response or the way that your nervous system communicates might be more on the anxious side. So if you're more of an anxious person, then you might want to work directly with your vagus nerve. And one of the things you can do is stick your finger in your ear if you want to try that
Yeah,
with
let's
me.
try it.
So the anatomy of the vagus nerve, like you can touch it directly in your ear and get really deep into the hole.
Uh-huh.
And even just doing that, can you feel how it's a little bit like downshifting? You're like, oh, this is kind of nice. It's a little relaxing. And
It's
then,
a little painful for me when I do it.
okay, cool. That's
Yeah.
interesting. And so
Yeah.
push down into a little bit and then pull down.
Uh-huh.
As if you're like doing a little
Yeah.
bit of that. Yeah.
Little hook. Yeah.
So then breathing deeply. So you're just kind of like calming the vagus nerve. And it can really help. Yeah, it can help a person come back into the window of tolerance.
Yeah.
So in nervous system language, there's a window of tolerance where we're not super reactive, where we can like respond to life and see another person's point of view. We're centered, we're present. And then if you get out of that window of tolerance, we're just in fucking reaction, like,
Right.
ah! And it's
Yeah.
like, and then going into patterns. So it's always really cool to ask yourself, am I in the window of tolerance or am I so fried that I'm already in fight, flight, freeze, flooding, fawning, fatigue? So working with the vagus nerve directly, if you are more on the anxious side, can be really helpful. It runs down your neck. The one branch goes to the front all the way down to your belly, the other one all the way to the back. So yoga practices, especially more of the restorative kind of things, a lot of the breathing techniques, alternate nostril breathing, a lot of the slow hatha yoga, and especially working with the neck, phenomenal for your vagus nerve.
Yeah.
Side body stretches, just anytime you work with yeah, it's just, and we intuitively do that. When we feel stressed, we intuitively start to stretch our necks. But this tension that a lot of people are feeling in their necks, that's like your nervous system constantly giving you feedback. So
Yeah.
direct working with the ear, I like to tell people that. Now, if you are in more of a state of depression a lot of times, if you find yourself shutting down more, then there's an exercise where you can train your nervous system to basically come back online. And I'm intentionally not using scientific terms just so that it's a little more accessible. So
Yeah.
basically, if you find yourself often depressed and like you just want to like check out, try this. So take your hands behind your head just so you can get your head straight and then your nose points straight ahead. And then,
Interlacing your fingers behind the head.
yeah, and this is just to hold your head in place. So this is
Okay.
just to hold you, but you can do it without it, but most people start to turn their heads when you do the exercise. So this is just to keep it in place. And then turn just your eyeballs to one side and wait for your body to respond by either yawning, sighing, or swallowing. So I typically wait for my body to swallow. So just look over and wait for the swallow and then other side. Yeah, and as you're doing that, I'm just going to keep talking. So yesterday I was talking to someone that's on SSRIs, the serotonin up the antidepressant basically.
Uh-huh.
And he's never heard of this idea that you can actually support yourself by doing vagus nerve exercise. So he's been of the belief that when you're depressed, you go to the doctor, you take medication. And he wasn't aware that there's things that you can do to help a depression in a different way, And so I'm super, super passionate about showing people that want to go a different route.
Yeah.
I'm antidepressants. It's just that I meet a lot of people that have been on medication half their lives.
Wow.
Like I one time had a client, she was on medications for 30 years and wasn't informed that there's a different path. And the downside of antidepressants is it depresses all feelings,
Yeah.
right? So it also depresses intuition. And so these medications are meant to be just for a short period of time, if anything.
Yeah.
So this vagus nerve exercise can help you come back online. And when you do it a few times a day over the course of a couple of days and weeks and months, your system can move through grief and difficulties with more bandwidth.
Yeah.
Now, doing this exercise is not going to fix your relationship or make you more money or
Right.
like solve the problems that got you, unquote, depressed in the first place, but they give you the bandwidth and the energy to deal with those things again,
Yeah.
to reconnect to your intuition so that you can get the guidance from source of what the solution might be for your life. So
Yeah.
they bring you the energy back. So maybe you can try it for a couple of days and then tell me, like it's
Yeah, I'd
super.
love to.
When I don't want to do something, like let's say, like I remember when was this? A couple months ago, taxes. And
Oh
I
God.
found myself like in my nervous system, like wanting to shut down and procrastinate, and I,
Yeah.
I could feel it like, I don't want to do this. And I could feel my nervous system getting dysregulated. So I did this exercise and boom, I was back online. I was like, okay, I can do the taxes thing now. And I sat down and I made it pleasurable and in gratitude and all the things. But my nervous system needed some loving to do that. And so I just want to tally off a couple of lists, things for the nervous system. I think one of the most powerful things we can do for our nervous system is lots of time in nature,
Yeah.
the, ob- the obvious stuff, lots of time unplugged from technology. And then also really easy things like no drugs and alcohol. I mean, super easy, right? Like, and I say easy in the sense that it's pretty clear what's dysregulating.
Yeah.
And we have now all these adaptogens and all these things, and they're extremely expensive. So if you want to do free things for your nervous system, put bare feet on the earth every day, 10 minutes. Get sunshine every day for a few minutes. Get into breath work and meditation every day. Um, just the practice of pausing when something happens and connecting to yourself, always coming back to your center, basically. There's so many different things these days that we have available for nervous system regulation. We Germans, we really love contrast therapy. I'm a huge fan of cold plunging
Oh yeah.
and sauna,
Yeah.
that really helps my nervous system. Sleep, of course. My dad's tea,
Yep.
amazing for your nervous system. So there's a lot of things that are absolutely free, and our bodies are designed to be in homeostasis. And if we learn a little bit more about our anatomy and physiology, it's really easy to be in the window of tolerance. But just knowing that most of us are living outside the window of tolerance and may not never have been inside of it, like me, I spent the first 20, 25 years dysregulated, disassociated in patterns, in survival, never really safe, present, and in the window of tolerance. And if we can learn that and just focus on that, regardless of your political or spiritual views, that would already make such a big difference in the world if we just have a regulated nervous system,
Big
you
time.
know?
Big time. Yeah. For sure. Well, thank you so much, Ellie, for coming on today and for sharing all of your beautiful wisdom and all the amazing techniques. So, for anybody listening, this is also on YouTube. You can type in at Spiritual Man or Peter Lightbear, Peter Lightbear. And you can find everything there. We'll drop all the links for how to connect with Ellie. Ellie is an amazing coach and mentor. So if you want to work with Ellie, I'll drop all the links and the links to her tea and anything else that we think of in the meantime, we'll drop into the description. So Ellie, thank you so much again. It was such an honor to have you on.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Peter. So much love to you.
All right, love you. Until next time.